Today our topic is Azure Load Testing. So this load testing is a new service. I think it went live from Azure maybe around maybe 1-2 years back, right? So we are going to learn about first starting with overview, then we'll see what is the pricing, then how to create load testing service in Azure, then we will learn what are the various types of load tests, then the workflow, and then what are the various components that can be tested. And here we are going to test web applications. Okay, and then we'll also configure some loads, how many users, virtual users can we create, how much time, all those can be configured, and then we will see what are the performance bottlenecks, and then finally it gives us the results. So we will also analyze the results. Okay, so let's get started. So we'll start with overview of load testing. So this is an Azure resource. It's very simple. I already created one. I will also show you how to create a load testing service in Azure. So basically this load testing service is fully managed service without requiring any infrastructure setup. I'm repeating, for using this service, we don't have to create any servers at all. In on-prem world, people have a special request to infra team, where infra team creates a large server, large VM with some softwares like JMeter, Java. Basically JMeter depends on Java. Okay, so those all installations are required, and people testers, automation testers or performance testers request infra team to provide a decent machine with decent capacity. But here with this service, we as a tester or as an infra guy, Azure guy, we don't have to create any servers at all. So if we're talking about not creating any servers, then those kind of things are called as managed service. Okay, so Azure has become very popular because of this kind of managed services. All we just need is create a form, fill a form, click on submit, that creates Azure resources. And all the infra related things like creation of VMs, installation of softwares, configuring them, right, all that will be taken care by Microsoft on behalf of us. We don't have to worry about all that. Okay, so Azure load testing also falls under managed service. In other terms, this is also called as PaaS. If you're already working on Azure, if you know some basics of Azure, you will understand PaaS, PaaS, platform as a service. Okay, so load testing falls under platform as a service. So using this service, what we can do is we can generate load very easily. Just fill the form, let Azure load testing service know how many users you want to create, what are the URLs, right? You just need to provide all the details and submit. That's it. So Azure in the back end will take care of spinning up virtual machines and then installing Apache, right? It will take care of all these things. So by the way, it has support for very popular open source load testing service called JMeter. JMeter is a tool built on Java. It's from a company called Apache. Okay, and using this load testing, we can get both the client side metrics as well as server side metrics. So using this, obviously developers, both front-end developers, back-end developers, they can use this information, and they will look at the bottlenecks, where exactly which piece of code is not running properly, and based on that they can take actions and then fix the code. That's how people will improve the performance. Okay, so now this load testing service not only can generate loads on public websites, they can also generate load tests on private websites as well. Not just websites, plus APIs as well. In some organizations where especially things like insurance, financial, banking, for these kind of customers, there will be many backend APIs which are hosted in private networks within Azure or within on-prem also, right? The load testing service now supports testing private endpoints as well. That's also possible. Today we may not look at this. Maybe in the future we can set up another session wherein I can show you how to set this private endpoints and how to configure load testing that can test private endpoints as well. Okay, so it can test on-prem, it can test hybrid environments as well. That means, let's say you have an endpoint in AWS, which is another cloud, which is a competitor to Azure. So this load test can do a test on an endpoint which is hosted in AWS as well. Only thing is, connectivity is something that we should take care of setting it up. And finally, it can be integrated with DevOps pipelines as well. For example, web applications, right? Every release, there will be a lot of new functionalities. So whenever there is a release, what you can do is you can also deploy it to a test environment, and on the go, you can run this load testing scripts. That's also possible. Okay, so one of the steps in the CI/CD pipelines. So CI/CD pipelines, if you're not worked on CI/CD pipelines, basically these are all related to automated deployment of code. It could be .NET, it could be Java, any technology. So along with deployment, you can also run these load testing scripts. That's also possible. Okay, and in case if you have any questions in the middle, guys, you can unmute because I'll not be seeing your hands. In case if you raise your hands also, I cannot see. So just unmute yourself and you can ask questions. That's okay. You don't have to wait till the end. If you have any questions in the middle, you can unmute and you can ask. Don't hesitate. Okay. So that's about a quick overview of load testing service. I'm going to show you very soon how to create. But before that, let's understand pricing. There are two costs involved in it. First one is one-time cost per month. So when you create load testing resource, Microsoft charges $10. Unfortunately, this is done immediately. If I create a new Azure load testing resource now, immediately they will charge $10, and that $10 is for the entire month. Okay, so I already did that, so I'm not going to create one more, because if I do that, they will charge $10 more. So within this $10, what is also allowed? First of all, the 1 month charge plus it also includes 50 virtual hours, virtual user hours. Okay, so if you want beyond this 50 virtual hours, then they charge $0.15 per hour. Okay, now what is a virtual hour? Below is an example. Let's say you want to simulate testing for 50 users, 50 virtual users. Whenever I say user, it's actually virtual user. We don't have to click or hit something, not required, right? It automatically simulates virtual users. So for example, let's say you want to simulate load concurrent 50 users, okay, for the duration of 10 minutes and see how the website behaves. Then the virtual hours is calculated using this formula, 50 into 10 minutes, approximately 500 minutes, right? If you calculate hours, it will become 8.33 hours. Basically, if you 500 divided by 60 minutes. So if you run, if you simulate 50 users for 10 minutes, then you are consuming 8 virtual hours approximately. Okay, that means approximately $2 is what you will be spending for this configuration. Okay, so that's how pricing works. There are two components. One is one time, $10, and then other thing is depending on the usage, virtual user hours, every hour it is 0.115. Within the month, if you are consuming around 10,000, 9,950 hours, right? After that, they will charge more. Okay, so that's how the pricing works. So pricing is important when you work For your customers, so obviously you should look at pricing first, then only you should recommend, because client will be more interested in understanding the price. Okay, all right. So now what are the various types of load test that this service supports? Basically there are two types. One is URL based, the second one is JMeter. So if you are a automation tester, if your background is testing, you might have already worked with JMeter. In case if you have skill on creating JMeter script, you can create the JMeter scripts and then come here and upload it. Today we are not going to see that. We will be looking at very simple one, which is URL based. Anybody can, without any testing knowledge, without any automation testing knowledge, can perform URL based testing. So we'll make it simple today. We will go with URL based testing. Right? So the same thing I specified here. So URL endpoint or JMeter. And I'm not a JMeter expert. I have some basic knowledge. So JMeter, I think it supports testing web applications. It also can test database. That's what I learned. And it also can simulate load on message queues as well. So if JMeter is supporting all this, then Azure Load Testing should also support performance test on database as well as message queues. I have not tested this yet, but if JMeter is supporting these two, definitely load testing must also support. Okay, all right. So now, yeah, we already discussed about this virtual users and test duration, right? So basically, when you are configuring load test, it will also ask you these parameters: how many virtual users you want to create, what is the duration, how much time you want to run, right? And how much time do you want to simulate these 50 users? Do you want to simulate them immediately or incrementally? Within overall 1 minute, slowly first it will create 10 users, it will wait for 10 seconds, then it will create 10 more users, right? Within 1 minute, okay, it will create 50 users overall, right? That's what ramp up time is. So these are all input parameters that are required while configuring load testing service. Okay, all right. So 50 into 20, which is 1000 virtual user minutes, which is equal to 16 virtual user hours. Earlier we have learned, right? 50 users for 10 minutes becomes 8 virtual hours. Now it is 16 virtual user hours. Okay. Along with these configurations, we also need to configure other parameters. For example, if you are uploading JMeter, right? JMeter can take parameters. What is a URL? What is a domain? Do you want to add IDs? For example, product ID, category ID, right? It can even take data from Excel as well or CSV as well. Okay. So all these configurations can be created while configuring the load testing service. Okay, and we can also specify how many agents. For example, 50 users, do you want to simulate them from one server or multiple servers? So all those can be configured. And fail criteria. So what is the criteria? So we will see this when we configure the load testing service. Basically the work, basically here you can see more information. So basically this is our application. Okay, developers develop this application and deploy them to some web servers. Okay, now in Azure we create load tests. Okay, and we can run the load test multiple times. Every time you run it, it becomes a run. When you run it, what happens is internally Azure will create multiple servers based on what we configure. We can provide 1, 2, 3, right? So we can configure those servers. Based on that, Microsoft Azure will create VMs. When I say instance, it is a VM. Okay, it will take care of installation of Java, Apache, this Apache, JMeter, all that, and it will also configure our scripts inside these VMs. All this is automated by Azure. We don't know how they do it. We don't even need to know anything about this. We just need to tell it the number, how many instances, 2, 3, 10. That's it. When you do this, Microsoft will install our scripts into this and they will start simulating load on our application. And the application will get load and application will start serving to those virtual users. So that's the entire process. Again, I have one more slide. I will show you this elaborated slide is there. Okay. So once this testing is done, while this is happening, load test will give us metrics. It will give us server-side metrics as well as client-side metrics. Okay, client-side metrics, for example, what is the response time, how many requests have been served, how much are failed. So all these requests. Server-side means, let's say web application. We are testing. Our goal is to test web application, right? Now, web application is not the only component. Web application can be developed using .NET, Java, and many other technologies, right? So these technologies internally will make use of other technologies. For example, database. It might be using APIs. It might be using other different things, cache, Redis cache or something. So we will get insights about all those as well. Yeah, I can see somebody raised a hand. Yeah, please go ahead, Ajay. You have some question?
Yes, from the last slide, which you had mentioned, like one test, it will create the instances for us. So for the every time while we run the test, so will it be gonna create the server, or will it be like when we are creating load testing, that time we'll only create the servers?
Only when you run the tests. No.
Okay,
When you run the test on the fly, it will provision these instances and it will take care of installing our load test scripts and it will simulate the traffic. It will simulate the virtual users.
okay,
Okay. So when you
got it.
run, it's not when you create load test. Creating load test is different. Running them is different. Load test can be created once or created multiple times, but when you run it, then only these instances will be added.
So
I'll
for
show you
example,
this.
if we run 10 times, it will gonna create 10 times those instances, right?
Yes, correct, correct.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
But we
That's
don't
great.
have to worry about that at all. That's all
Okay.
internal to Microsoft. All
Okay.
we need to focus is charge, right? How much time did our test run? Of course, it depends on us, right? You want to take 10 users for 2 minutes, then you need to do that calculation. So we just need to worry about how much time, how many users. That's it. Internally,
Okay.
what VM sits up creates, whether it is Linux or Windows, we don't have to worry about that, right? We will take care of OS maintenance. All that is not our headache. It's all Microsoft Azure's work. They will take care of that.
Okay. So, in my scenario, like in our company, we have QA, like 5 members of QA. So they are testing ongoing application and continuously. Like at the while the deployment is done, that time they are running the JMeter and they are testing
Mhm.
in this way.
Yeah. So there they will be running from their machines, or they might have a dedicated machine. From there they will be running. Correct. So here we don't have to manage that machine at all. The machines are created on the fly by Microsoft Azure. Every time we run, it will provision and it will create and it will help us in running the JMeter scripts on the fly. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead, Hima. I can see there is an answer.
Yeah, does it have monitoring tools like Dynatrace? I think when you mentioned that there's client and server side monitoring as well. But does it have something like Dynatrace as a feature?
No, this itself has an UI where it will give
Right,
us results.
right. Okay. So it's like a typical load runner GUI where you can see what are the server side versus client side statistics there.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
But additional thing is they call it as app components. Right? They can choose what all components,
Hello.
additional metrics you want to retrieve from.
Yes.
Right? So here there is a
Yes,
Azure
speaking.
native
Who is
service.
this?
Okay, let me mute so then. Okay, so like similar to Dynatrace, Microsoft itself has a native service called Application Insights.
Okay,
So
cool.
web application can be integrated with Application Insights and Dynatrace as well. Maybe today we are going to see how to integrate App Insights with load testing service. It can fetch data from there,
Right.
and maybe Dynatrace support would also be there. I have not tested that yet.
Yeah. Because most companies, I don't know, I've done load testing like 10 years back. But when we used to do that, it was always a requirement for most companies that we have to connect it with Dynatrace and show them the statistics. So I was just wondering, I don't know how things have moved on and changed now, but just trying to find out if you have something similar, or maybe there is a API which we can connect with Dynatrace.
Yeah. So here Application Insights is similar to
As
Dynatrace.
okay.
Application Insights is a Microsoft native tool. So that integration is possible here. I'll show that here. Okay. So Ritesh, I see a question, what do you mean by client side and server side load testing, right? So you will see server side metrics, right? It's not server side testing, but it's server side metrics is what it will show. Okay, server side and client side metrics. All right, let's move on. Yeah, those were good questions. Others also, please don't hesitate to unmute and ask questions. Okay. Yeah, these are client side and server side metrics. Okay. Then yeah. So I copied this from Microsoft official website. So as you can see here, this is our application. Okay. And this is the Azure load testing. So here we can create tests. While creating test, we need to provide the plan. What are the URLs, one URL or multiple URLs, or URL based testing or JMeter based testing. Okay, and what are the various components that you want to grab the data from, like storage account, web server, application insights, which is similar to Dynatrace, database, Redis cache. You can choose all those Azure services. They call it as app components. From it, it can grab the metrics, and it will show us the reports. It will show us data in the reports of Azure Load Testing. So this is all configuration, this area, right? We need to create test, of course. Create and modification is also possible. We need to create all these configurations, and then we can run this multiple times. So when you run the test plan, okay, basically what it does is it gives us test results and logs. So when you do a test run, what happens is based on the configurations that we provide in test plan, it will create instances. Basically, instances are nothing but managed virtual machines, which contains Apache JMeter, which contains Windows or Linux. I don't know what they use. It contains definitely Java is required. All those prerequisites are installed, managed, done by Microsoft. We will not have any control on those machines. And from this machine, it will simulate parallel or concurrent requests or load on our application. Okay, so we might have only 2 or 3 or 10, but number of users, that is different. From these machines, from each machine, there may be multiple users who are simulating the load. That's how the load testing works. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah. So here I created an application with this architecture. So we have a web, not everything. Okay, we have a web application. Okay, this is called as Azure App Service. In real world, app service can have APIs, multiple APIs. Some of them might be uploading to data to storage. Some of them might be working with database. Okay, and this web application will push telemetry data to application insights. This is similar to Dynatrace. And application can also talk to Redis cache to improve performance. This is a typical web application architecture, but I have an application. I could not build everything. I have built web application with one API that talks to database, and the telemetry data is pushed to app insights. Okay. So this setup is ready. I used a technology called Bicep, and I used .NET based application for web app and API, and I have used Azure SQL database. Okay, and maybe I'll quickly show the setup before we create load testing service. So these are all our development area, right? All these are created. Maybe I will filter it. Just to save time, I've created all these upfront. This is a web application running in a web server, and this is pushing data, monitoring data to App Insights. It uses Key Vault for database password, and then this is logs. This is the place where logs are stored, and this is the one which shows metrics from these logs. And this is database, and this is database server. This is all being used, and we are not using storage, and we are not using network yet. Okay, now how did we deploy code to database, this web application, and how did we deploy tables, stored process to database? We have a DevOps pipeline. So I sometime back, right, 30-40 minutes back, I deployed database. This is build and release pipeline. I have deployed this just 30-40 minutes back, and then I also deployed web application, which is .NET application, to the web application, Azure web app. Okay, so everything is automated. CI/CD pipelines are all automated using a technology called YAML. Okay, and I'll quickly show you Bicep code and all. So this is all Bicep infrastructure as automation. I did not create anything manually. Whatever infra I shown here, right? So nothing is done manually. Everything is automated using Bicep. And this is the .NET application, .NET 8. Okay. And SQL is in some other repo. That's not very important. And I already deployed it to a web application. So intentionally there is an error in home page, and the privacy page is a very simple one, which is like this. Okay. So now we have two endpoints. Home page is one endpoint, privacy policy is another endpoint. So we have to test both of the URLs. That's our requirement. Of course, privacy policy is very simple one, but still we will test it. One of them is success page, one of them has an error. Okay. Now because we are going to simulate a lot of load, thousands of requests are going to hit the website. Our application is running in a very small instance now, so obviously that is not sufficient. I think it is running in a free tier. So let's go here. App Service Plan is basically a web server. Currently it is running in free F1 tier. So I don't want free one because it hardly has any capacity. So I want to increase it to a decent capacity so that we can have decent runs. So this is all Azure PaaS. I can simply, you can see CPUs and RAM here. Maybe I will go with 4 CPUs and 7 GB RAM because it is just for 15-20 minutes. So I'm good with that. It is increasing the capacity as simple as possible. We're all, I'm sure many of us use laptops, right? Is it possible to upgrade our laptop's RAM? It's not easy, right? We have to remove all those blah blah blah, right? We have, and some expert should be doing that. Not everybody can do that. But here you see, I just came here from free. I increase the capacity to 4 cores and 7 GB RAM. It's as simple as it is. That's the power of PaaS. And we can also increase the number of servers as well. Right now it is just running in one server. This is not refreshed yet. Our application is now running in one server. So I can increase the number of servers as well. I can have 2, 3, 10, 20, 30 as well. but I'm not going to do it because it will charge me. So our application setup is ready. Now it's now time to create a load testing service. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create a load testing service. Let's go here, search for the first step is creation of this load testing service. So click on create. It's very simple. Just choose a resource group. Resource group is nothing but a group of resource. It's a container. Okay. Maybe I will choose an existing one. Provide a name. Employees. Click on something. The location, and then click next. This encryption is important. For example, we are going to submit our JMeter scripts, and that JMeter scripts might also use some CSV files or Excel files or XML files. That those are called as artifacts. Maybe sometimes it might contain some sensitive information. Sometimes load testing also requires to log in a particular website, right? What JMeter or automation testers used to do is they provide a lot of users, real users of that application. Right now here I did not enable login, but in general all websites have login feature. Right now some authenticated functionalities required user, the virtual user, to log in. Without login they cannot test, correct? So what JMeter developers or JMeter tester does is they provide the username, passwords of the test users in CSV file. They upload it. Now Microsoft guys should not be able to see those credentials, right? So what this does is this will encrypt all our artifacts. JMeter in general, the extension of JMeter files is JMX. So JMX files or CSV files might contain some sensitive information. So all those are encrypted using Microsoft keys. If you don't want to use Microsoft keys, we can come up with our own keys. Basically, it's all related to encryption and all. Okay. So we can go with Microsoft managed keys. That should also be okay. And that's it. We can review all the information. If you're happy, click on create. I'm not going to click on create because it is, if I click on create, the moment I create it, it will charge me $10. Okay. So I'm not going to do that. I already did that. So I've already created a load testing using the steps that I just showed you. So once the load testing service is created, the next step is we can work on creating tests. Okay, as you can see here, we can create normal HTTP tests wherein we provide URLs, or we can upload JMeter script as well. It's up to us. In fact, if you do this, it internally converts those things into JMeter only. That is internally Microsoft will handle. Okay, so I don't have JMeter script now, so I'm going to go with a simple HTTP tests. Okay. If I click on this, it already shows shows us the list of all tests that I already created. Now I'm not going to use this. Maybe I'll create a new one. So I'm going to use a URL based test. So click on this. Now this is a wizard kind of thing where it has a lot of tabs. Now, as I already said, we want to test two URLs. One is homepage, the other one is privacy policy. Okay, that means we have 2 points, right? So I'll come back. Here it will ask us what is the test name, homepage, and privacy policy. Some meaningful name. You can provide a description, that's optional. We want to run the tests immediately, maybe no. I will run it manually myself. In the basics tab, it allows us to provide the URL. It provides only one URL. and I mean in the basics tab it supports us to enter only one URL, but what is our requirement? Our requirement is to set up 2 URL testing, correct? So if you want to do that, you can click on this. Okay, this basically when you have multiple requests to be tested, then you have to enable this. If you don't want to do multiple URLs, you can have one URL. Maybe I will just show you that as well. Copy. And here is asking us to specify virtual users. I'm not going to use 50. Maybe here we can use 50 users for 20 minutes. Ramp up minutes. How much time you want? Within 1 minute, I want to simulate all 50 users. No, don't do it immediately. The moment you create test, right? Don't simulate 50 users. Slowly add 10 at a time. Maybe every 10 seconds, add 10 users. Something like that is called as ramp up time. So now here we have not chosen this. Because of that, rest of the other tabs will be empty. Test plan, all this will be empty. Okay. So our requirement is to test 2 endpoints or 2 URLs, right? So we will enable this. When you enable this, the other fields will be invisible. Now when you click on next, here it will ask us what are the endpoints. Okay, we can directly choose from here, or we can use CSV files to upload. Okay, ours is a simple one, so I will input from UI. So first is home page, and let me capture the URL. And it also supports not just get, but other things as well. It supports post, it supports providing query parameters, headers. All these are also supported. Okay, for now we don't need it because our website is public website. So this is URL 1. Click on add. URL 1 is here. To add URL 2 for privacy policy. Let me copy this. So if you want to have a URL based, it supports up to 5 requests only. If you want to test beyond 5 URLs, then you have to use JMeter, or you have to create multiple tests. Right now we are creating one test, right? Each test supports only 5. Let's say you don't know JMeter, but still you want to do a test. You have 10 URLs or 20 URLs and 100 URLs, right? So for every 5 URLs, you have to create one test. So that's how it works. Yeah. So I have these two. Next, our code doesn't depend on any environments. Okay, Ajay says he's not able to hear anything. Others, am I audible, guys?
Yes, audible. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Ajay has left. Okay. All right. So we don't depend on any certificates, secrets, nothing. So we don't have to provide anything here. And this is the place where it asks us how many instances, blah blah blah. Maybe I'll say 2 or 3. And linear. Do you want to slowly add users or step by step? Spike. I'll go with linear. Maybe I will choose 10 users instead of 50. Or maybe we can, yeah, 10 users is good. And 2 minutes is also good. Here we can have 20. 20 users, continuous 20 users in the span of 1 minute. 20 users will be created, and those 20 users will will simulate the load on for 2 minutes continuously. Okay, so and the traffic mode is public. Right now our website is also public, so it is by default public. The website is allowed only from network, then those configurations must be done here. Right now we don't have to worry because our endpoint is public. Okay, and test criteria, we will not specify anything. Basically, if you see number of errors, then treat that. If you want to automatically stop the testing, if there are more errors, then all those can be specified. I don't want to configure it. I want to make a very simple one. And then what are the server-side metrics you want to capture? From where all you want to capture? So our application, I know because I am the one who developed that web application as well. So I know what all components web application uses. So this shows us all the resources, but I can filter based on resource group. So our web application talks to this, and this. It doesn't talk to storage. It doesn't talk to Key Vault as well. So no. Okay, that's it. So it fetches, basically Azure Load Testing fetches the metrics from the server side. Next. So double check all the inputs, 3 instances. So 20 users for 2 minutes. That's a decent load. You see, creating JMeter script on the fly based on the URLs and other parameters. It creates a JMeter script automatically, and then using that script, JMeter will be created on those 3 servers. Of course, we are still creating. Our test is getting created. We did not run that yet. It is still in progress. Our test is getting created. So though it says it is still in progress, here I can see our test. So far we did not run that yet. Now I can click on run. Okay, so meaningful name. Okay, it's still it's still in progress, so I cannot run it. I think we have to wait. Meanwhile, any questions, guys? So we can run this because it's the first time we created a test. Yeah. Now once the test is created, we can run it as many times as we want. So yeah, it took some time, maybe 1 minute approximately. Now I can run this. Load test. So yes, I clicked on something. Meaningful name. Yeah. So now the request has been accepted by Azure. So now it will look at all the configurations. Now I think if I remember correctly, we configured 3 instances. So now those instances are getting provisioned. So basically that means Microsoft will acquire, I mean our load testing will acquire 3 VMs from Azure. Okay, and then it will do all the required installations. Otherwise, in on-prem, this provisioning must all be done by our infra team. So sometime I have seen, right, people procuring separate servers for this if they don't have one, because they need a large capacity server, and then all the installations configurations must be done on those servers as well, and JMeter must be installed and configured. But here Azure Load Testing service is taking care of all that. Now you see it is executing. Now I can click on this to see more information about that particular run. So it has started here. It is not yet ended. 3 instances are available. In fact, I think it is not started. Here it says executing, but so now while this is progressing, what I can also do is in Azure, I can see live traffic. So application insights is an Azure service which has the capability of showing live traffic as well. So let me quickly open that here. This is the resource group. This is the service and live metrics. Let's see. This can be used normally also. You don't have to run load test to see. In general, you see there are a lot of errors because our home page has errors, right? So how many requests are coming? 40 requests per second. All of them are getting failed. Yeah, this is Azure App Insight, which is giving this, and it created only one server. CPU percentage is 19%. This is not load testing, guys. This is normal App Insight, which is giving some report. So let's come back. It is not yet showing the, yeah, I think it started here. So how many users? Yeah, I think 50 is what we have taken. I'm not sure. I don't remember. 20, right? 20 or something we took. So it made 60 requests so far to homepage and 57 so far to privacy. And response time for both of them. Privacy is 420 milliseconds. This is very quick. And okay, this is successful response. Yeah, 10 seconds homepage. Because homepage connects to database, so it is taking time. However, privacy page doesn't connect to database, so it is very quick. So the response time is very quick. I need to stop my screen share for a moment, guys. Okay, I think we lost. Let me share the screen one more time. Let me know once you're able to see the screen.
Yes,
Okay.
it is visible.
Okay. Thank you. So how many requests? 16 requests per second and 12 requests per second for home page. Privacy page 16 requests per second. And there are errors, you see, almost everything is an error in home page. And these errors, privacy page doesn't have any errors, right? So this chart doesn't show privacy policy page because there are no errors. Only home page has errors. But here number of requests, both privacy and home page, it shows data, and average also it shows in green color. Okay, and here unfortunately server side metrics, I configured it but it is not showing. Looks like there's a bug. Maybe we'll have to configure it one more time. Okay, but this is how load test can be configured. Maybe I will show you a previous run here. I think I configured server side metrics as well. I think so. No, even here I did not configure. I did not configure server side, I guess. Okay, server side. Yeah, here I configured server side. It is not showing data properly. It is showing data for key vault. It is showing data for web application. How many requests? 30K, 40K response time. I think here I forgot to select database, but database should show some data. So this is how, of course, you have to spend time in analyzing each and every chart. Okay. But otherwise, this is how load testing can be configured, and it will give us all the insights. Now, these charts can be given to the developers, and in fact, ours is done, I guess. Yeah, it is complete. Okay, so overall 1600 requests made in the span of 2 minutes, and 15 seconds is the response time. This is average across those two endpoints, homepage and privacy policy. And half of the requests are errors because 50% is homepage, right? Rest of the 50% is privacy policy. So most of 50% of them are errors. Okay. Yeah. So that's how you can create load test scripts and you can get these chats and reports. But doing the same thing in on-prem will take a lot of time because of these servers. I mean, VM capacity issues. People need to install it, configure it, right? So it will take a lot of time for if you know some of you are from testing background, automation testing background. Definitely, you might know the challenges when you want to run huge scripts. Here I just took 10 users or 20 users and ran it for 2 minutes. But in real world, you will have to make 100 users maybe and run it for 10-15 minutes continuously, right? That time the server in which you're running will get hung, but here we will not see any such problems at all because Microsoft will understand based on the load they will take a decent capacity machines on the fly. All that process is automated. Okay, and I can see some questions. Shravan is asking, if I want to test entire load for a website and we don't know how many URLs are inside, in that case, can we mention just landing URL? No, Shravan. That's a good question, right? Some websites have thousands of endpoints. So how will you test each and everything? So that's when the JMeter guys, JMeter application helps us in recording, right? So people use a recording feature and we can manually click on every endpoint. That's one way. The other way is if you have thousands of endpoints. Okay. Endpoint can be anything. For example, it could be category ID. For example, let me show you. This is home page, right? Let's say we want to we are displaying some listing of all categories. So the category ID format will be something like this. Okay, so home/category/1. This is one endpoint. This could be another endpoint. So like this, there could be hundreds of categories. So now if you ask developers to share them all these endpoints, developer can give this to you. That's one way. The other way is, let's say the URLs doesn't change based on the IDs, but entire page name is different. That's another use case. In that case, definitely you might have different teams, right, where they will know the list of all pages. So you have to take them. That's another option. So recording JMeter, leveraging recording feature is JMeter is one way of getting all URLs. Then developers can help you in framing this URL. That's second solution. Third solution is if you have a SEO team, if you are working with a public website, for example, airtel.in, right? Airtel. This definitely will have thousands of pages. This is a public website. So nobody, SEO team, right? Generally, for this kind of website, SEO team would be different. They will have site maps. See sitemap.xml. So this will give you all the URLs. You see, there are at least hundreds of URLs. So in any website, XML sitemap will be there, which contains the list of all URLs. From here, you can also pick, and this data can be given as input to JMeter. Or you can also, our load testing here, right, supports only 5 endpoints. So you have to create multiple tests. I mean, one test for each 5 endpoints, something like that you have to plan. If nobody is giving data, then you have to plan yourself, or request automation tester to record, or maybe to take input from Excel sheet, which contains all these URLs. So there are multiple solutions that can be done based on the scenario. But if you just give one landing URL, that is not sufficient. Okay. So does that make sense, Shravan?
Yeah, yes, Praveen.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. Otherwise, I think I'm done, guys. If you have any questions,
Sorry,
feel free
Praveen,
to.
just one question then. So if it's like a scenario based, for example, you have to capture an ordering journey, or if you have to do like an ATM transaction or mimic something, then the best way is to capture the script using JMeter. Or if you have just some random endpoint URLs which you want to sort of just see how much time the page takes to load or the attributes take to load, then probably this is the best method using the URL is the best method then?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If others do not have any questions, we'll stop here. And thank you so much for your time. Yeah. In case if you joined late, or some of you got disconnected in the middle, I will make sure I will upload this into YouTube, and I will share the URL. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Praveen, just have one question. Will it be okay if you can able to share the PPT with us?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, guys. Thank you.
Praveen, I have one question.
Yeah. Please go.
Yeah, can we say, for example, if my route is like category slash by category ID, where category ID is a query pattern which goes to the database and get the details.
Correct.
In that case, when I go with URL loading, can we send that values from anywhere, like set of values from the array like that?
Yeah, not array, but JMeter supports taking the data from Excel sheet. So your Excel sheet will become an array. So
Okay.
here it doesn't. Yeah. So you have to frame the entire URL. How do you frame that? It's up to you. Right. For example, you have an Excel sheet or CSV. You have a list of all category IDs 1, 2, 3, 4,000. Right. So now you need to pass that as an array. That Excel itself is an array. Okay. So JMeter supports that. It will take. You don't have to write. If you have 1,000 categories, you don't have to copy paste 1,000 URLs. No. Rest of the URL is same. Only thing that is changing is category ID. Now in JMeter, it supports a kind of for loop, which will take all the inputs from arrays or Excel, right? So that will create all those 1,000 endpoints, and it will submit request to those 1,000 endpoints. That can be done.
Okay, Praveen, thanks. Thanks for the session.
Sure, sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.